Alicent Hightower condemning attacks from fans following George R.R. Martin's criticism of the series. The world of Westeros had always been one of intrigue, betrayal, and complex characters, but few events in recent memory had shaken fans of the series as much as the controversy surrounding the adaptation of George R.R. Martin's work. The latest developments had left the fandom divided, with heated debates online, intense fan reactions, and, unfortunately, a darker side: harassment and attacks aimed at cast members and figures associated with the series. At the center of this storm was Alicent Hightower, the young queen whose character had been both celebrated and vilified. Fans had long been passionate about the series, but in the wake of George R.R. Martin's recent criticisms of the television adaptation, some reactions escalated beyond mere discussion. Online posts turned into personal attacks, and the vitriol was directed not just at showrunners or writers, but at actors and performers who had brought these characters to life. In a carefully arranged statement, Alicent Hightower spoke publicly for the first time regarding these attacks. The statement was poised, measured, and heartfelt. "I have always loved playing my role and contributing to a world that so many people cherish," she began. "But what we have seen in recent weeks, attacks, harassment, and threats directed toward individuals associated with this series, is unacceptable. Passion for a story should never cross into personal attacks or violence." The context behind the statement was clear. George R.R. Martin, the author of A Song of Ice and Fire, had recently criticized aspects of the adaptation, expressing disappointment with certain creative choices and the direction of character arcs. Martin's critiques were detailed, nuanced, and reflective of his deep understanding of the world he had created. Yet for some fans, his comments were a spark that ignited a wave of anger, targeting the actors who portrayed the very characters fans felt were mishandled. Alicent Hightower addressed this directly in her statement. "It is deeply troubling to see that criticism of the series has sometimes led to harmful attacks on individuals who had no control over those creative decisions. We must remember that actors are not the same as the characters they play. Criticism of a storyline is valid, but harassment of real people is never justified." Social media had become a battleground in recent weeks. Posts ranged from disappointment and frustration to vitriolic attacks, often anonymous, directed at cast members. Some fans had even attempted to uncover personal information about actors, escalating harassment to threatening levels. Alicent's statement sought to confront this toxic behavior head-on. "Everyone deserves respect and safety," she emphasized. "No one should be subjected to attacks for their work, for embodying a character, or for simply doing their job. I implore fans to engage with the story, not with the people who bring it to life." The timing of the statement was crucial. Fans had reacted emotionally to Martin's criticism, and social media was flooded with debate. Alicent's calm and authoritative voice provided a counterbalance to the chaos. She acknowledged the passion of the fanbase, recognizing that the love for Westeros ran deep. "I understand that fans feel strongly about the story, about the characters, and about the world we inhabit," she said. "Passion is what makes a fandom vibrant, and we welcome discussion and debate. But it must remain respectful. Our community should be one of engagement, not aggression." News outlets quickly picked up her statement, highlighting the seriousness of the situation. Headlines framed the story as a necessary intervention in a growing problem. While fan passion was celebrated, journalists noted, harassment could not be tolerated. Interviews with experts in media, fandom culture, and online behavior underscored the importance of Alicent Hightower's message. They emphasized that the distinction between criticism of creative work and attacks on real individuals was often blurred in online spaces, and her statement served as a reminder of ethical engagement. In her statement, Alicent also addressed the broader impact of Martin's criticism on the fanbase. George R.R. Martin's perspective is invaluable, as it comes from the mind that created this intricate and beloved world. His criticism is constructive and reflects his vision for the story. It is not a call to anger. It is not a call to violence. It is a dialogue about the narrative and the characters we all cherish. The response from fans was mixed, reflecting the polarized nature of the community. Many praised Alicent for speaking out, noting that her statement was a brave attempt to protect fellow cast members and maintain civility in the fandom. "It takes courage to speak up when emotions are high," one fan tweeted. "Thank you for reminding us that actors are human beings, not targets for our frustration." Others, however, felt constrained by her message, interpreting it as limiting fan expression. Alicent's response to this perspective was thoughtful. Critique and discussion are welcome. Debate is the lifeblood of any passionate community. But critique must target the work, the story, or the production, not the people involved. There is a line between engagement and harassment, and we must all strive to recognize it. The impact of her statement was visible across multiple platforms. Online communities shifted slightly, with a noticeable increase in messages emphasizing constructive discussion rather than personal attacks. Hashtags promoting respectful debate trended alongside posts reflecting fan frustration with creative decisions. Alicent's voice had become a stabilizing force, reminding the fandom that admiration for a story should not come at the expense of basic decency. In addition to social media, Alicent participated in interviews with media outlets, emphasizing her position. "It's important to remember the humanity behind these characters," she said during a televised interview. "Actors invest time, emotion, and energy into their roles. To attack them personally is to ignore that humanity. We must separate story from reality, character from performer." The timing of these interviews was significant, as the recent criticism from George R.R. Martin continued to dominate headlines. Fans were dissecting his words, analyzing every nuance, and projecting their interpretations onto the actors. Alicent's interventions, both written and spoken, served as a grounding reminder of the human element behind entertainment. Media analysts highlighted the significance of her role. By speaking out, Alicent Hightower not only defended her peers but also contributed to a broader discussion about fandom responsibility. In an era of instant communication and viral content, her calm, measured voice cut through the noise, modeling respectful engagement in spaces often dominated by reactive and aggressive commentary. The statement also touched on the emotional toll that harassment can take on performers. "I've seen the impact that attacks and threats can have," Alicent noted. "It is not just words on a screen. They affect mental health, well-being, and the ability to continue performing with passion. We must protect one another as a community, and that starts with civility and respect." Fans responded positively to this acknowledgement, with many reflecting on their own behavior and the culture of online criticism. Discussions emerged about the line between passionate fandom and toxic harassment, and Alicent's words became a reference point for debates about ethical fan engagement. In subsequent interviews, Alicent also acknowledged the importance of George R.R. Martin's original vision. "We respect the author and his insight," she said. "His critique is about storytelling and character development, not a call to attack anyone. We must listen, learn, and engage with care, not anger." The broader entertainment community also took note. Articles and think pieces emerged analyzing the phenomenon of harassment in fandoms, using the situation as a case study. Alicent Hightower's intervention was widely praised as an example of responsible leadership within a passionate community. She had managed to defend her colleagues, advocate for respectful engagement, and reinforce the distinction between story criticism and personal attacks, all while maintaining a diplomatic and empathetic tone. In the weeks that followed, Alicent continued to use her platform to encourage healthy discussion among fans. Social media posts emphasized dialogue, analysis,